Yeah, well, we'll see. All right. Let's see if the YouTube gods are in our favor tonight. Yes, it says we have an excellent connection. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting a bit early. There were some scheduling errors. All right, so folks, I want to introduce my wonderful guest, Alex Alice. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Perfectly.
All right, so my high school French was good for something after all.
I'm very sorry. That's my bad.
It happens. It
Okay.
happens.
All right.
All right, let me also fix the screen a little bit. Okay, all right. All right, it should be fine now. Okay, this is also new technology for me at the moment. So, okay, we should be good. So, all right. Well, we don't have that much time. That's why we're starting early. So I hope we can go at this as a bit of a casual pace. I usually start with some domestic announcements, and yeah, I'm gonna do them because I actually been looking at your Kickstarter campaign. I'm doing a new one next February myself, and you have these wonderful postcards. So I got, you know what, I'm gonna try that too, and I got them in today, and oh man, they look beautiful. They look amazing. I was like, I got these and it's like, oh my god, these look amazing, awesome. So thank you for the idea. Um, but yes, enough about that. So yeah, let's start with who you are and what it is you do.
So my name is Alex Alice. I'm from France. I'm a visual storyteller. So my main medium is graphic novels. I've published nearly probably close to 20 now. I've been doing this for 25 years. I also do illustration, and I also absolutely love animation. So I do a little bit of work in that field as well. And I've been working for a little more than 10 years on a whole new world building experience for me. That has come out mainly in the form of graphic novels. It's called Casket in the Stars, and it's a story of space travel in the 19th century.
Yes, so when I look at it, I clearly see like the influence of the romantic futurist like Jules Verne. Could you also say there are influences of Art Nouveau there, or is this a different school?
Oh no, definitely, especially now. Well, my approach has been very, how should I say, scientific. It's a bit of a stretch, but the whole point of my the world building I've been doing is say, okay, what if uh, what if the it starts as in a historical piece. It starts in real, actual 1869, and the first scene is the mother of the hero is a balloonist and a scientist, and she goes up in the air and she smashes every altitude record, and she goes to 13,000 meters altitude, and that had never been reached before. And she discovers this substance there that's called the ether. And that's actually something that scientists believed in at the time, that space was not void. It was filled with a substance called the ether that allowed the light to
Yeah,
travel.
that had to do with
Uh,
Newtonian physics, didn't it?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Uh,
It's been yeah, Newton. I think Newton was one of the. It was the. It probably was because it was basically something that people believed at the time, that for light to travel there had to be a medium. It
yes,
was a
exactly.
wave,
Yeah.
and that it was a wave, so it had to travel through a medium like sound through air, or waves across water. So they thought there must be something for the light wave to travel through, and they called it ether after the name of the son of the god of the sky in Greek myth. So yeah, I think Newton probably believed that. Descartes in France did. It was basically until Albert Einstein's theory that ether was the main idea of how light
Yeah.
worked in space. It's funny anecdote is that there was this huge experiment to try to prove the existence of ether at the beginning of the 19th century. So they set up this whole experiment and they found that the thing did not exist. But the whole idea for Castle in the Stars is that what if this had been real? And by the same token, what if space looked as people believed in the 19th century? So
Interesting. Yeah.
at this time, you looked at the moon with the telescopes of the end of the 19th century, and you could see maybe there's no air, maybe there's no, moon people on the visible side. But, on the far side of the moon, who knows? Maybe, there's remains of atmosphere there. Maybe there are deep crevices where there's still air, and maybe there are some moon people. And when you looked at Mars, now the telescopes were beginning to be good enough, so it was not just a single spot of red light; it was a disk, and you could sort of beginning to see surface features. And to the eye of the astronomers of the time, Schiaparelli and then Percival Lowell, they looked at this and they said, "Oh, this looks like straight lines. So this must be
A
man-made,
channel.
or
Yeah.
yeah."
Yeah.
And hence the canals of Mars, etc. And same thing for Venus. You looked at Venus as you do now, and you see nothing. So you say, okay, there's nothing. Now the thinking of the time was, okay, we see nothing, so it must be clouds. There are clouds. It's very hot because it's closer to the sun. So hot clouds. Oh, it must rain a lot, and the vegetation must grow very nicely. And since it's closer to the sun, it's probably younger than Earth. So there must be things there that we used to have back on Earth back in the day. And it was the time where we found lots of new dinosaurs on Earth. So we thought, oh, Venus, probably lots of dinosaurs in a hot, steaming jungle. And these sound like crazy, fantastical sci-fi ideas, but at the time it was like the prevailing, most logical thing that could happen. That's the way we looked at the planets and thought, oh, that's probably it. And so it's just when I found that out, I found some old astronomical books, flea markets, and there were illustrations actually of how these things looked, the jungles of Venus, the canals of Mars. I thought, okay, this is absolutely wonderful. It's very poetic, and if you start with this idea, and your characters go there, and there's air, there are weird creatures. It's just a wonderful playground for a story.
Yeah. It's kind of like, sometimes I feel like really envious of like the science fiction writers of the past, because they we know so much now. It's people expect you to go along with the times, and adapt, and it's also like visible in the aesthetic. So now everything in science fiction looks sleek instead of like in your stuff. So but why I'm disinterested, and I will probably support your Kickstarter myself, is because we have a very similar approach to writing and world building in steampunk. Do you consider your work steampunk, or is that just something that it turned into? How would you describe your relationship to that?
I I think I enjoyed the genre before it had a name. So
Okay.
I'm French, so the
Yeah.
my school as a kid was called Jules Verne School. So so
Look
it's
at
built
that.
into
Yeah.
my DNA. But yeah, it's definitely steampunk, even though there's very little emphasis on steam or punks.
Yeah, I wish they. I cannot emphasize this enough. I wish they picked a different name for it. Because especially with my series, I don't know if you're watching with us, but I currently have an illustration that recently somebody made for me. It's a coffin girl. This is, by the way, based on French history as well. Are you?
Oh,
Yes, yes, they are. She's a pilot in the French Penal Legion in the University Association of Ishtar. Um, and yeah, the are you familiar with the Casket girls?
I don't think I am. No.
No, so you are probably familiar with Devil's Isle and the Dreyfus
No.
affair. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So there's
In
this
French.
prison colony in
Yeah,
French Guinea,
yeah.
and at some point, like the idea was that they're sending prisoners there with the idea that after they, did their sentence, they're gonna be integrated into the colony itself. That very mixed results, to say the least. But because it was like overall just males being sent there, what they did was, okay, let's send a bunch of prostitutes over there as well. And those were like these women would have like a casket, like a small suitcase, and they that's where the name Casket Girl came from. Um, and I was doing research because I had the idea of creating like a French penal legion that would be used to fight these aliens that are invading the world. A very long story, very short. And I was like, okay, they have like female pilots because I read that the female prison population was separated in a special nunnery. So I was like, oh, that's actually interesting, and that's how I came upon the name Casket Girls, and it was then mistranslated into English as Coffin Girls. But it seemed to fit well with the idea of female pilots and experimental robots. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
sounds great.
yeah. So actually, my first comic has like a short story that kind of introduces the concept. And the next one is gonna be about a living doll, but it also takes place in the same universe. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this book so I can finish that. But yeah, then I want to do a novelette about the Casket Girls and Mary in particular. So yeah, that's a little bit on my end. But where does this passion for this particular project come from? Is it a love for science fiction or a love for history or both?
It's probably a bit of both. When actually when I was about the age, which was a young teenager, I that's when I read Jules Verne a lot. And it's about the time also when I visited the castles of Bavaria, and that's
Mm.
another huge chunk of the story is the idea that so they set up a space program in the first book, and who who could have the vision, the passion, the money, and be eccentric enough to fund such a
Yeah.
program in the 19th century. And the idea was, okay, what if it was King Ludwig of Bavaria, the Mad King, the king who built his fairy tale castles.
Rings a bell. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was he was this very romantic figure at the end of the 19th century. And actually, when I visited Bavaria as a kid, I discovered these castles, and they look like actually the Walt Disney castle, because
Yeah, yeah,
Sleeping Beauty based the castle on this one. So when you go there, you think you're in a fairy tale,
yeah.
and that was the
Neo
idea, right?
neo romantic. Yeah, wonderful stuff.
Yes, 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 yes. And so it's on top of the hill with the majestic mountains, and it's absolutely romantic and absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to do something. Ever since then, I wanted to do something with the character of the king, which is a tragic figure of this romantic person who really wanted to build a world of his own, and was in love with myth and medieval times and Wagner's music, and had a rather tragic ending. And I thought, it's something I really sort of connected with the character, and I wanted to use it in some way or form. And at the same time, I wanted to do Jules Verne style science fiction based on the ideas of From the Earth to the Moon and 19th century technology and the vision of the cosmos of the time. And I really had the two ideas, separate in parallel. And I thought, yeah,
And
I
what just
couldn't find a story for either of them. And then one day I realized, hey, wait a
yeah.
minute.
That's the muse talking. That's what I'm trying to word. I'm working on this video, like how to get people started with writing, because a lot of writers really get stuck on like one idea and they don't know how to make a story out of it. That's you got to activate your muses, and sometimes they whisper these ideas, and that's an experience only as a creative you understand that.
Yes, it's usually, that's keep reading different stuff and visiting places and keeping commonplace books of ideas but usually the really good ideas, they come when you least expect it.
Yeah, when you're sitting on a toilet or stuff like that, or you know. And no, it's really true. So you mentioned like is let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter. What is it? What can people expect? And do you want to make more of these in the series?
So the Kickstarter is for a book that I've been dreaming about since the beginning of the series. It's sort of a guidebook to the world of Castle in the Stars. So it's for people who already know the comic book series and people who have no idea what it's about. So it's really written as an introduction to this universe, and when you get the book, it's as if it came to you directly from the world of Castle in the
Yeah,
Stars. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
written by someone who lives in this world. And when I'm now at book 6, and which I wish I had here, but it's a moment where after many adventures, my heroes come back to Earth, and I started in really historical 1869, but still in 6 years, the empires of Earth have discovered the solar system and tried to and it began the exploration, exploitation, colonization, etc. So they decided to set up sort of a universal exhibition, but it's in Paris, like the actual universal exhibition. Only this one is interplanetary. Yeah, there are. You go to the Champ de Mars in Paris, and instead of the Eiffel Tower, there's a pavilion of Mars, which is this huge floating red
Oh,
model of the red
awesome.
planet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the World
And
Fair. Yeah.
yeah, it's and there's a pavilion of Venus, which is half British, half French, and there's sort of weird airships going all over the place. But the so the book is about that. It's about the exhibition and an introduction, a general introduction to life and to life on the different planets of the solar system. There's also a sort of how we get there moment in the beginning of the book with the whole sort of timeline of the space exploration. So it really gives you a feel of this is a historical. It's like a historical book from another universe.
All right. Did you just
And
say
so,
you had already 6 books done, or did I mishear?
yes. Yeah,
Oh wow.
so I had a time to first 2 books is really about the beginning, the pioneers, the first ship and the trip to the moon, and book 3 and 4 are the heroes, going to Mars for the first time and coming up with a coming against the German forces that are already in the process of colonizing Mars and subjugating the Martians. And book 5 and 6 are a trip back to Earth, where they realize how the world has changed. And the thing that I really wanted to do with this book is really start from historical, regular,
Yeah.
and just as it goes along, it really tells the whole story of the conquest. So it gets more and more science fiction and fantastical. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
finally at the
That's
stage
what
where
my approach to the world building is as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how similar or approach to the universe is. Um, Now, yeah, something that I know because I'm talking a lot to people who do Kickstarters, and like I showed yours to Matt Knowles. He has also a steampunk comic called The Ears of Isolder. He even has like a death metal album that goes with it. Um, and he saw your numbers, like you were at 1,600% of your goal. So for them, like, what is your secret?
Oh, um, it's. I think. Yeah. I think the fact that this universe has existed as a graphic novel for 8 years now, and not only in France, but there are, I think, probably a dozen translations.
Oh,
So there's
wonderful.
an awareness to to this world, um, and
So this is already 8 years in circulation. This series.
yes, in
Oh.
France, yes, but each country, some of them just started, so they have all the series to publish now. So
Ah.
I think
Okay.
this helps a
Okay.
lot. Um, this surely helped a lot, and after that, yeah, I'm really happy for the support. It's been absolutely fantastic. Something I think for this kind of book, it's great because art books are sort of hard to. It's a difficult market for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bookshop.
Yeah. I did a what do you call it? A coloring book. It's yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah,
So.
and but it's the sort of book that you can get a really passionate readership from all over the world, and they're but yeah, this is great because we have following from. I saw the list. It's probably like 30 countries. It's wonderful because there was no way to publish that in 30
Oh God.
languages.
Yeah.
These are rather niche book for people who are really passionate about this sort of thing, as I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that yeah, that it's found so many backers who are willing
Mm-hmm.
to go along with the adventures, and it's been, yeah, it's been a hectic. It's a lot of preparation, and now I'm just really so fired up to do new illustrations and
Mm-hmm.
coming up with just new stuff, and we have a lot of stretch goals going on. So I'm still doing new new
Yeah, I saw those.
watercolors.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome.
Or
Uh,
it's, yeah, most of them are in the scan now, but this is Planet Venus with a couple of
yeah, I saw that one
French
on Instagram
explorers.
today. Yeah, awesome.
I'm just
Yeah,
having
yeah.
a
It's
wonderful time doing all that.
oh man, yeah, yeah. I'm just doing it for a little over a year now, and I mean it's great fun. It's also expensive as hell with little reward at the moment, but yeah. So yeah, well, also hello, Professor Ronin. Thank you for being here. Of course, folks, if you have questions, don't be shy. Please ask them in the chat. All right. So let's see. We're doing good for time, so we can talk about whatever we want at this point. Is there something else you want to share about the Kickstarter before we move on to another topic?
No, it's been really great to have also the comments, the feedback, the ideas that we're looking into. It's just a fun way of doing a book. It's the first time for me, and I'm really having a great time on that. And yeah, I look forward to doing the extra stretch goals and coming up with new stuff and ideas. And it's yeah, it's yeah, first time for me, and just wonderful. And it's yeah, I might it's in a few, I think in a few years time I'll probably have more stuff to to propose for this particular format, because it's, yeah, you think of something, you can just offer it and then people pick it up or they don't,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the idea that there's no barrier of entry. You can just come up with an idea and say, okay, folks, do you
Oh
like it
man,
or
and
not?
also these stretch goals look amazing. Like two planetary, the bookmark stuff. I did bookmarks on my first one too. Illustrated menu. What's the illustrated menu? Is that really what I think it is?
It's for the first rewards we wanted to have a little bit of fun. So there are restaurants in the Interplanetary exhibition, and this is the actual menu from one of the restaurants with specialties from Venus.
Okay, yeah,
So
I was actually thinking about doing something like that myself because arcology is this city that's surrounded by Lovecraftian horrors, but I imagine like the flavor text, if it would be like a card where you have like cosmic horror, and then like the flavor text is like best served with pepper and something like that, because
yes,
those people just eat them.
yes, it's sort of thing that I really like. I've been for this to do the world building for this whole universe. I this is stuff that's hard to believe now. We all know that man never went to space in the 19th century. And initially, in the first, when I had the idea, I thought, okay, I just love this, but how could people believe this? Because we know it's not true. You tell this story of space conquest in the future, and it's easy to believe. You tell this in the past, and suddenly you have to you're asking a lot to the reader, who's not a steampunk fan already. So my idea was, okay, the key for me to make this work is that as I'm doing the work, as I'm writing and drawing this stuff, I need to believe it. I mean, of course, I know it's
that's
not
a good
true,
one.
but
That's a good
I
one.
need to be fully convinced that it's real. And you know what? So I did the whole research into the astronomy of the time, the way people viewed all this the universe, but also in the actual facts of historical characters that I use, the trying really to get into the spirit of the time. But also what I found is that it was actually rather easier for me to believe that Venus is a jungle planet filled with dinosaurs. This is easier to believe and imagine that the reality of Venus is this
Yes.
infernal high
Yes,
pressure.
absolutely true. Yeah,
But
I have the same thing with my latest book, which is also like quite utopic, despite all its horrible elements. That you're like, yeah, this would never work, this setup. But so there's already that little suspension of disbelief. But like it's really like a kind of agreement with your audience that you have. Like, well, I think it's good enough to believe, so you have to believe it's good enough to believe. So and that's also like I also try to keep everything like I have this rule with my illustrators, like everything needs to look like 90% historical. So when the futuristic elements are truly futuristic and or fantastical. Now this one is also a nice stretch goal: Interplanetary Fashion Guide.
yes. Well, I've been for the to create the world of the Interplanetary exhibition. I did a lot of research and costume research, and I also designed for the series. I designed a couple of spacesuits. This is the Bavarian one. You have the this is the Prussian spacesuit. So it's I had a lot of characters in various costumes and dress, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have this folding poster that's sort of also a book and also sort of cutout figures where you list of all the styles of the people who would attend such an event. And I have that actually in my research books, like fashion, the sort of the fashion magazine of the time that would tell you, this is what you have to wear when you're doing this or that. So I will have a little
Yeah.
bit of fun with that.
Yeah. Like I'm now looking. Oh, I actually could do stuff like that as well. Oh man, I need to curb my ambitions. Um,
And just yeah, I don't. I have this spacesuit actually exists. I had it made by wonderful costume makers in Paris that are
Oh,
called
that
Les
way. Right,
Vertigadins.
right, right. Yes.
I have pictures of it on my Instagram account. It's I have it life size, and it was made. I made a mistake when they asked me, okay, so okay, we can do it. It will be leather and wood and brass and highly detailed and everything. But what
Awesome,
size do you
awesome.
want it? I said, I don't know. I haven't thought of that. I don't know. Regular? What's regular? I don't know. My size.
Funny how that works,
Okay,
isn't
you
it?
come
Yeah.
tomorrow. We make a plaster mold of your and you're bald, so there's no. So they model the whole thing on my
I
head.
can
So
one up
very
you in
cool.
that department, this lead, because I did it the other way around. I had the costumes before the art was made. So actually, the original costume of the original costumes are actually based on actual costumes that I wore, including art that's gonna appear in our next book. A comment. I'm gonna screw this name up. Guilherme Las Casas. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Love the project. I saw it in the prototype book. There were concepts for an animated film. Did you pitch the project to an animation studio? If so, can you share how was the process of pitching it?
Huh. I did some early in the process. When I got the idea, I thought, hey, this would make cool animated series. The kind of series that I grew up with, one especially was called Les Mystérieuses Cités d'Or, the Mysterious Cities of Gold. It was extremely popular in France. It was made in Japan by Studio Pierrot, if I'm not mistaken, by a French producer and writing team. It was about well, the discovery, like a 16th century trip to Peru and exploration, kids in an adventure and science fiction elements. So it was really, all the people my age in France have seen it. It was this wonderful, adventure and wonder-filled adventure where, and it's sort of the feel that I wanted to capture with the story of Castle in the Stars. It was really in that spirit. So when I had the idea for it as a graphic novel series, I thought, hey, this is also the kind of show I like to see on television. And animation is a very difficult business, and was especially at the time, because there was the time there were Netflix wasn't even online.
Mm-hmm. Right.
TV
Yeah.
was-
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um, so you had to work with television, and at the time TV in France would not do follow-up episodes, like a whole
Yeah.
story cut in 26 episodes. They didn't do that for reasons that I always found highly strange or irrational. But
Right.
that's the way it worked. So, and I knew that, but I thought, hey, if you don't try it,
Yeah. Of course
if
not.
nobody
Yeah. Yeah.
tries,
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought I really I wanted this story I wanted kids to enter this world and find the same kind of wonder that I found in the Mysterious Cité d'Or. So I wanted to give it a go. I developed it in Japan with a couple of friends and a French production company, and we pitched it in France. But at the time, it was just a kind of thing that they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
do, because it was a whole big adventure cut in
Yeah.
many episodes. So
Well.
that's how it went. But because I was kind of expecting it, which was a really fun process developing the whole thing in Japan with my friends Christophe and Julien and David, who all went on to do wonderful stuff. uh, and and that's where I left things in terms of animation for Castle in the Stars. But the good news for me was when the books came out, at least in France, but I think probably true in other countries, that a lot of kids. It's not a kid's story, but I wanted the kids to be able to read it. And I've got in
Yeah.
France, it's a multi-generational thing. When I do signings, I have the parents and the kids, and everyone's reading the book, and it's a great pleasure for me because in pop culture in general and entertainment, now you have, okay, this is for this age to this age, this is for this age to this age, this is for kids, this is for grown-ups, and it's all separated. And I really like the idea of doing a story like Jules Verne who's for everybody.
Yeah, I'm still. I started on this, really proud of it. Like it's a young woman and her doll that comes to life. She has to take care of it, and then I'm writing it, and it becomes a little dark at the end, and I'm like, maybe I should like tone it down so I can like say, yeah, this is actually also good for kids. Bit of a spy thriller with dolls and dogs. But
I think kids, especially nowadays, can handle pretty dark stuff. But so but yeah, there are definitely limits that we.
yeah. So I'm like, yeah, it's a story that I want to write, but maybe I should like tone it down a little bit so I can say.
I work in France. I work with a publisher who does books for adults and also for kids. So that was really important for me, and they gave me feedback on, just to make sure that it would be appropriate. But there was, I can. I think I have the sort of the right state of mind to be able to do that, where things can get dark, but there's no over-the-top violence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just make sure that when things get complicated, if you don't get it, it's okay. You can still enjoy the story, and then you'll go back to it, and then figure things out. Especially in the, there's a lot of, as the story progresses, there's a lot of political stuff and the rivalry of the empires, and I have this double casting of kids and adults, so they have. It was really tricky to write at the beginning because I really wanted to have these the both audiences in mind. I wanted to write a story for me now and also for the kid that I was. I wanted to be able to say, okay, imagine myself discovering this comic and this world.
I mean, the wonderful thing about things like that is, when you read something as a kid, and it's like, oh, look at all the pretty pictures and pretty colors and stuff like that. No, and they're going on adventures, and when you're older, you read it again, you're like, oh, I did not even realize that stuff was all there, that's certainly how I look at older media, and it's probably why I enjoy it also a lot more than modern stuff. From the same person. Awesome, thanks for the answer. I hope someday we can get to see an animated show. Netflix would be perfect for it. I got 2 books from the Kickstarter. Looking forward to reading it. All right, you're welcome, sir. A little bit about that, and I'm moving a lot more into the indie scene to promote my own stuff, getting to learn a lot of indie creators, and I noticed there's definitely an appetite for, well, I wouldn't say necessarily steampunk, but steampunk falls into that category where you probably heard there's like superhero fatigue, with all the Marvel movies doing worse and worse, and that when people see my stuff, it's like, oh, this is different because everyone is so we are now getting a generation that doesn't know anything but superheroes. Yeah, well, I don't know if you have the same experience, but I forget that there are now a lot of young adults who don't know a world before 9/11, without getting political, but it's like, oh yeah, that you weren't, well, not you weren't even born when that happened. So you don't know the cultural impact that event had and the events that have happened ever since. And now I'm really noticing that even if the people do not have a particular taste for steampunk, like they look at my stuff, that's not typical fantasy, because that's also a thing. Things are either fantasy or it's superheroes, basically. And a little bit of sci-fi. Um, so is that something you experience or feedback that you get?
Um, that's I never thought about that. Yeah, the fact that for young people now, this Marvel Cinematic Universe has been around for so long that it's been the main thing on screens for
Yeah,
since
I mean,
2008, something like
I
that.
barely realized it myself until a while ago. But it's just been Marvel. That stuff is going on for 20 years now, nearly.
not, not that long, but close.
Close, yeah, close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. And I mean, I do enjoy the odd superhero film from time to time, but it's clearly been a over dominant feature in the pop cultural landscape, and I enjoy other things, and I yeah, it's um uh I enjoy science fiction a lot, and I must say it's also been a good 10, 15 years for sci-fi in general, where we had a number of great films which we didn't have before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think we're in sort of a golden age of science fiction in terms of cinema, actually, for 10, 15 years. If you count the masterpieces, the really great science fiction movie before Avatar, actually, there are some, but uh, not that much.
Mm.
So yeah, it's also been a good moment for that, and I don't mean necessarily obviously space science fiction. Like I love
Mm-hmm.
Interstellar, I love Sunshine by Danny Boyle, this sort of thing, but also really interesting non-space science fiction like Her by Spike Jones. Um, yeah, I think we're now basically living in the world of science fiction with the technology that's around the corner. So, Black Mirror is a fantastic show, and I think it's really on par with the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
taking
Are
an
you also
IP.
familiar with Love, Death, and Robots?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. I,
Yeah, it's visually extremely exciting. So there's I have superhero fatigue as well, but I think there are a lot of wonderful stuff around. And I look forward to the next masterpieces in the genre. But there's so much stuff, and I believe maybe a little more leeway, a little more freedom that's given to the some of the creators. I think
yeah, that's
probably
definitely
I
a thing.
guess Love,
Yeah.
Death and Robots is a good example of that. You can feel that they sort of trust the studios that are doing the pieces. So it's yeah, I think the latest Guillermo del Toro series, the Cabinet of Curiosity, is also a very interesting
I have not yet seen that,
new
but I heard
technology.
about it. Yeah. Okay, I
It's
just noticed that my clock froze on my PC, so we have 10 more minutes before you have to leave.
yeah.
Last thing I wanted to ask if you have noticed anything in American circles. There's a kind of reappreciation for French comic books. Have you noticed that?
I have not, but it's a very good it's very good news.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at like the French comics, you have like Western, science fiction, fantasy, all that stuff, and they have like superheroes. So,
I
whenever I talk with them, there's this real um how to say it, like, one of the people I talk to regularly, Nick Tuckert, go watch his podcast, Nevermind the Nevermore, Furthermore, sorry, Nevermind the Furthermore. And he called like what I do like a palate cleanser, because they're dabbling in superheroes, and then they come to us, and then it's steampunk. Um, And then one of the thing is that I also am very surprised about. Like steampunk is very big in gaming. Like some of the biggest games in the last couple of years have been steampunk, like Frostpunk. Like oh my god, and I wish that the quote unquote steampunk community would be talking and grasping onto that and try to make use of that popularity. Unfortunately, they don't. Um, but yeah, I'm curious how that will develop. And with that, is there something you want to end on, a topic or some?
Well, I think we're very lucky in terms of comic book in France and Belgium because, as you said, we have really we have a very when you go in a comic book, actually a bookshop in France, any bookshop, you will find a whole array of comic books, graphic novel, American comic books, French, Belgium, Japanese. Uh, yeah, it seems we have a very welcoming culture for international comic books and also different genre. And in this area as well, I think I'm very lucky to live in this time for comic books in France because it's really a golden age of creation. It can be very hard for the creators themselves because there are a lot of books, so not all of them are able to procure a living wage to their creators. So
Tell me about it.
that's very hard. But yeah, the the tools now for creation and crowdfunding and building communities online, Patreon. I see. It's all extremely. I mean, I think the publisher should make more efforts to fund creation, but it's also
Yeah.
nice to have a completely alternative way of trying to make it in doing this stuff. And yeah, I'm very excited about the future in that field. Also, the fact that comic books and graphic novels are a wonderful way to create a visual story with if you're an artist, you don't even need a computer. You take a piece of paper and a pencil, and you spend 1 hour there, and you can create a world and characters and living, breathing people that you can look at them and show them and make people believe in your world, your
Oh
characters,
yeah.
see them live, see them speak, see them think. It's just a wonderful medium for self-expression and developing ideas. And I think it's no wonder that a lot of different mediums, especially animation and cinema, are now looking at comic books uh, for inspiration because we're a lot of us are free. It's because it it's something you can really do with very little means. I
Resources.
mean, if you want to make a living out of it, it's another story. But if you want to create something, it's very easy. It's much easier than make a movie or a TV series
Oh yeah.
or a video game. And so I think that's why there's a lot of creativity in that field because there's literally almost no barrier of entry. You didn't have to draw very well to make compelling characters and great narration
Oh
that
yeah.
will really pull people in. So yeah, and it's always it's I just I just love the medium and it's um it's something that basically anyone can do and experiment in, and it's really a lot of fun. I love I do that sometimes. Go to school and talk to kids and say, hey, you know, go for it. Let's try. Let's make a little exercise. Let's make like 3 panels and off you go. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, because our guest needs to go in a couple of minutes, and my watch is still broken on Windows. Thanks. Yeah. Well, folks, go check out the Kickstarter Castle in the Stars. I put a link down in the description, so please check that out. Stuff looks wonderful. I'll probably support it later this week as well. There's 11 more days to go. Yeah. Alex, thank you for being here. It's been an honor. If you like, maybe we can do this again. So I can pick your brain more on comic
Yeah, yeah,
creation.
sure. I enjoyed our casual conversation, and
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. And yeah, I hope to. My book is planned for February to go to Kickstarter, but in August or now it's probably more likely going to be October. I hope to get our first full issue comic done. Yeah, it's comics, man. It's a skill I think all writers should learn to at least understand, because it also helped me greatly as a normal writer, on how to write comic book panels and translate that to and my style really translates easily to comics, so that's also a benefit I found out. But yeah, folks, we're gonna leave it at this. If you haven't already, please subscribe to associationofishtar.com so you can get a newsletter and get our blogs on writing and other stuff, and of course updates on our guests, Kickstarters, and stuff like that. And yeah, as always, folks, make things your way. Good night.